One player was on pace to hit 800 home runs before injuries stole 500 games from his career. Another dominated with 100-mile-per-hour fastballs until a stroke at age 30 ended everything. A third player was murdered at 27 just as he was entering his prime, after actually returning part of his salary because he felt he wasn't earning it. These aren't fictional scenarios. They're real baseball tragedies that robbed us of potentially the greatest careers in sports history. The most haunting part? We'll never know how incredible these players could have been because fate intervened at the worst possible moments. Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson made other professional athletes look like weekend warriors. This guy ran a 4.12 40-yard dash at 227 pounds, then casually launched baseballs over 500 feet like he was playing catch in his backyard. Most players dedicate their entire lives to mastering one sport. Bo treated baseball as his summer hobby while simultaneously dominating the NFL. He would finish football season in January, show up to baseball spring training without any preparation, and immediately start hitting bombs that left pitchers shaking their heads. The numbers from his 1989 season tell the story of what could have been. Bo hit 32 home runs and stole 26 bases, becoming one of the rare power speed threats in American League history. Scouts were projecting him as a potential 40-40 player with gold glove defense in the outfield. His arm strength was so ridiculous that runners stopped trying to take extra bases when he fielded the ball. The thing is, this was Bo at maybe 70% effort because he was splitting time between two sports. Full-time baseball players couldn't match what he did part-time. Bo Jackson remains the only athlete ever named to All-Star teams in both Major League Baseball and the NFL. He hit .250 with 141 home runs in just 4 baseball seasons while playing football during the offseason. His power-speed combination defied basic physics. Players his size aren't supposed to run that fast. Players that fast aren't supposed to hit balls that far. Bo did both while making it look effortless. The most frustrating part was watching him make impossible plays look routine. He would break his bat on a swing and still drive the ball 400 feet. He ran through outfield walls chasing fly balls like the wall was made of paper. Other players worked their entire careers to develop the skills Bo was born with. He barely tried and still made highlight reels every week. The cruel irony is that football destroyed his baseball potential. The sport he loved more ended up costing him greatness in the sport where he could have been legendary. During a January 1991 playoff game, Bo suffered a hip injury that effectively ended his football career. The injury damaged the blood flow to his hip joint, requiring replacement surgery that changed everything about his athletic ability. Without that hip injury, Bo Jackson could have redefined what was possible in baseball. A healthy Bo playing full-time baseball for 15 years might have hit 500 home runs while stealing 400 bases. Instead, we got 4 seasons of part-time brilliance before his body broke down. Bo Jackson proved that some athletes are just built different, but his story also shows how quickly everything can change. The human body has limits, even for Superman, Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey Jr. had the most effortless swing in baseball history, and the math shows he was on pace to break every major home run record before his body completely betrayed him. Jr.'s swing was so smooth that hitting coaches still use his mechanics as the gold standard for teaching young players. The crazy part is that this perfect swing was tracking toward numbers that would have made him the greatest power hitter of all time. By age 30, Griffey had already smashed 398 home runs with a career .296 batting average. To put this into perspective, he was ahead of Hank Aaron's pace at the same age by 22 home runs. Aaron finished with 755 career homers, which means a healthy Griffey was looking at somewhere around 800 home runs for his career. The projection wasn't even close. It was basically a mathematical certainty if his body held up. The thing is, Griffey's body didn't just break down gradually like most aging players. He went from effortless perfection to living permanently in the trainer's room. The injuries started piling up during his prime years in Cincinnati, when he should have been demolishing home run records. His left hamstring became a recurring nightmare that cost him months at a time. Wrist problems made it painful to swing the bat that had once moved like poetry. Ankle injuries slowed down his legendary defense in center field. The numbers are staggering when you add up all the time Griffey lost to injuries. He was placed on the disabled list 12 times during his career and played fewer than 130 games in 11 of his 22 seasons due to various physical problems. That's several full seasons worth of baseball where fans couldn't watch the smoothest swing in the sport. During those missed games, healthy Griffey probably would have hit another 100 home runs based on his career averages. The cruel reality is how close Jr. came to catching Aaron's record, even with all those injuries. He finished with 630 home runs, just 125 behind Aaron's mark. Simple math shows that those missed games would have given him enough at-bats to surpass 755 homers and challenge Barry Bonds for the all-time record. Instead of debating steroids and asterisks, we could have been celebrating the most beloved home run king in baseball history. Griffey's story proves that even the most gifted players can't escape their body's limitations. His swing never changed. It remained that perfect, effortless motion that looked like he was barely trying. But hamstrings tear, wrists get sore, and ankles give out regardless of how talented you are. The smoothest swing in baseball history was ultimately cut short by the most frustrating injuries imaginable, reminding us that physical durability matters just as much as natural ability. Tony Conigliaro, a single 90-mile-per-hour fastball on August 18, 1967, ended what could have been the greatest power-hitting career in baseball history. Tony Conigliaro was standing in the batter's box at Fenway Park when Jack Hamilton's pitch changed everything in one terrible moment. The sound of the ball hitting Tony C's face was so loud that players in both dugouts heard it clearly over the crowd noise. Tony Conigliaro was the youngest player ever to reach 100 home runs in Major League Baseball history. He hit his 100th homer at age 22 years and 197 days old, beating even the great Jimmy Fox's record by several months. By his 22nd birthday, Tony C had already launched 104 home runs while playing his home games at Fenway Park, which wasn't exactly known as a hitter-friendly ballpark in the 1960s. His power numbers were so impressive that scouts and baseball analysts were projecting him to challenge Babe Ruth's career home run record of 714. The thing is, Conigliaro wasn't just hitting cheap home runs or benefiting from a short porch. His power was legitimate and consistent across different ballparks. During his age 20 season in 1965, he led the American League with 32 home runs, becoming the youngest player ever to lead either league in homers. He was hitting tape measure shots that cleared the Green Monster by 50 feet and landed in the parking lots beyond Fenway's left field wall. The August 18th game against the California Angels started like any other night game. Hamilton was a journeyman pitcher known for his wild fastball. When Tony C stepped into the box in the fourth inning, Hamilton's pitch sailed high and inside. The ball struck Conigliaro directly in the left cheekbone and eye socket, fracturing his cheekbone and causing severe damage to his vision. The impact was so severe that he collapsed immediately and had to be carried off the field on a stretcher. The medical reality of Tony C's injury was devastating for a baseball player. The beaning damaged his depth perception permanently, making it nearly impossible to track incoming pitches properly. Depth perception is critical for hitting because players need to judge the exact location and speed of a baseball traveling over 90 miles per hour. Without proper depth perception, even the most talented hitters struggle to make consistent contact. Conigliaro attempted several comebacks over the next few years, but his vision problems made it impossible to return to his previous level. He managed just 20 more home runs in parts of 4 seasons after the injury. One pitch robbed baseball of a potential Hall of Fame career and showed how quickly violence can rewrite everything about a player's future. Lyman Bostock. The shocking irony of Lyman Bostock's story is that he was murdered just months after returning part of his salary to the California Angels because he felt he wasn't earning his paycheck. Most professional athletes fight for every dollar they can get. Bostock actually gave money back because his conscience wouldn't let him keep what he hadn't earned on the field. Lyman Bostock was entering his prime as a major league hitter with a career .311 batting average through 4 seasons. He wasn't just a singles hitter either. His approach at the plate was getting better each year. Bostock had learned to work counts, draw walks, and drive in runs consistently. His .311 average ranked among the top contact hitters in the American League during the mid-1970s when pitching dominated the game. The thing that made Bostock special was his character off the field. During his first month with the Angels in 1978, he struggled at the plate and felt he wasn't living up to his contract. Instead of making excuses or waiting for his performance to improve, Bostock actually returned a portion of his salary to the team. He told Angels management that he hadn't earned the money they were paying him and wanted to give some back until his hitting improved. Angels manager Jim Fregosi was convinced that Bostock would win multiple American League batting titles during his career. Fregosi had managed plenty of talented hitters, but he saw something special in Bostock's approach and work ethic. His prediction seemed reasonable considering Bostock's steady improvement and his OPS plus of 123, which was well above league average for the era. The statistical projections for Bostock looked solid heading into the 1979 season. He was just 27 years old and entering what should have been his peak years as a hitter. Players typically reach their offensive prime between ages 27 and 30, which meant Bostock had his best seasons ahead of him. His combination of contact ability and emerging power suggested he could become one of the American League's premier offensive players. The cruel reality is that Bostock's generous character conflicted with the random violence that ended his life. On September 23, 1978, he was shot and killed in Gary, Indiana, while visiting family. The shooting was completely random. Bostock was an innocent victim of street violence that had nothing to do with him personally. He was just 27 years old and had recently started hitting better for the Angels. The timing couldn't have been more cruel. Bostock was finally hitting his stride as a professional player after returning that salary money. Random tragedies struck one of baseball's most genuinely good people, just as he was proving he belonged among the game's elite hitters. J.R. Richard, a 6'8" pitcher throwing fastballs over 100 miles per hour, should have dominated baseball for 15 years, but J.R. Richard's own circulatory system nearly killed him at age 30. Richard was the most intimidating presence on any pitcher's mound during the late 1970s. Hitters stepped into the batter's box knowing they were about to face triple-digit heat from a giant who could place that fastball anywhere he wanted. J.R. Richard was the most dominant pitcher in baseball before his stroke ended everything. He led the National League in strikeouts during both 1978 and 1979, overpowering hitters with a combination of velocity and control that few pitchers have ever matched. His 2.71 ERA in 1979 led the league as well, proving he wasn't just throwing hard, but pitching effectively. Richard struck out batters at a rate that made other aces look ordinary. The thing is, Richard's teammates started questioning his work ethic during the 1980 season when he complained about fatigue and arm soreness. Players thought he was making excuses or losing his competitive edge. Richard kept telling people something felt wrong with his body, but the medical staff couldn't find anything obvious. His complaints seemed minor compared to his on-field performance, which remained excellent through July 1980. Richard was actually having his best season ever when the medical mystery got worse. He posted a 1.90 ERA through July with a 0.92 whip and 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. These numbers were better than his previous dominant seasons, which made his physical complaints even more confusing. Nobody understood how the hardest thrower in baseball could feel so terrible while pitching so well. The shocking discovery came when doctors found a life-threatening blood clot in Richard's shoulder area. The clot was restricting blood flow and causing the fatigue he had been describing for weeks. Richard had been pitching with a condition that could have killed him at any moment. The blood clot explained everything about his physical struggles, but the timing was cruel. On July 30th, 1980, J.R. Richard suffered a stroke during a workout at the Astrodome. He was just 30 years old and in the middle of what should have been his best season. The stroke ended his career immediately and left him fighting for his life instead of fighting for strikeouts. Richard finished his career with 1,493 strikeouts in just 1,606 innings pitched, showing incredible efficiency for a power pitcher. His career 3.15 ERA demonstrates consistent excellence over his shortened career. The hardest thrower in baseball was nearly killed by his own circulatory system, proving that medical conditions can end careers more suddenly and completely than any injury. Satchel Paige, baseball's greatest pitcher, debuted in Major League Baseball at age 42, which is absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. Most pitchers are considering retirement by their late 30s, but Satchel Paige was just getting his first real chance to show what he could do against the best competition. The absurdity becomes even more obvious when you realize Paige had already spent 21 seasons dominating the Negro leagues before racism finally allowed him to step onto an MLB mound. Satchel Paige spent over 2 decades proving he was the best pitcher most fans would never get to see. His Negro League statistics show complete dominance with a 2.52 ERA, 1,213 strikeouts in 1,275 innings, and a 96-51 record. These numbers came against competition that included many players who could have starred in the major leagues if given the chance. Paige was beating the best players available to him, but segregation meant most baseball fans never witnessed his prime years. The thing is, when Paige finally got his chance with the Cleveland Indians in 1948, he immediately proved he belonged. His 2.48 ERA as a 42-year-old rookie helped Cleveland win the World Series that season. Most rookies struggled to adjust to major league hitting, but Paige dominated from his first appearance. He was throwing strikes and getting outs like he had been pitching in the majors his entire career. The most mind-bending fact about Paige's career is that he threw harder at age 45 than most rookies at 25. His fastball still had plenty of velocity even after decades of professional pitching. Paige became a 2-time All-Star during his late 40s, making the team based purely on his performance against much younger competition. His final MLB statistics show a 28-31 record with a 3.29 ERA and 288 strikeouts in just 476 innings. Paige's legendary control and showmanship drew massive crowds wherever he pitched. He could place his fastball exactly where he wanted it and had the confidence to tell batters what pitch was coming. Fans packed stadiums to watch him pitch because they knew they were seeing something special, even though his best years were already behind him. The mathematical reality is staggering when you consider what Paige's MLB statistics could have been. If he had entered the major leagues at age 22 instead of 42, he probably would have won 300 games easily and struck out over 3,000 batters. Instead, segregation robbed baseball of potentially its greatest pitching career and created the ultimate what-if scenario in sports history. Historical injustice denied fans the chance to witness true greatness during its peak. Jose Fernandez. Jose Fernandez was already elite at age 24 when his story ended without warning. Most pitchers take years to develop their command and learn how to attack major league hitters, but Fernandez dominated from his first appearance. His career 2.58 ERA proves he wasn't just a promising prospect. He was already one of baseball's best pitchers during his short time in the majors. Fernandez burst onto the scene in 2013 with one of the most impressive rookie seasons in recent memory. He posted a 2.19 ERA during his first year and earned National League Rookie of the Year honors. The thing is, Fernandez didn't just have good numbers, he looked completely comfortable pitching against veteran hitters who had been in the majors for years. His rookie campaign included an all-star selection, showing that he belonged among the game's elite pitchers immediately. The statistical dominance becomes even more impressive when you examine his complete career numbers. Fernandez finished with a 38-17 record, which translates to nearly a 70% winning percentage. He struck out 589 batters in just 471 innings pitched, giving him a strikeout rate of 11.2 per 9 innings. His 1.06 WHIP shows how rarely he allowed base runners, making him incredibly difficult to score against. To put this into perspective, Fernandez was tracking toward multiple Cy Young awards based on his early performance. Pitchers with his combination of strikeout rate, low ERA, and winning percentage typically dominate their leagues for years. His trajectory suggested he could become one of the best pitchers of his generation if he maintained his level of performance. Miami Marlins fans finally had their franchise pitcher after years of disappointing seasons. Fernandez brought excitement and hope to a franchise that had struggled to develop consistent starting pitching. His presence on the mound meant the Marlins had a legitimate chance to win every fifth day, something the organization hadn't experienced in years. The mathematical projections for Fernandez's career were staggering based on his established pace. A healthy career lasting 15 seasons could have resulted in over 200 wins and 3,000 strikeouts. His combination of youth and proven performance suggested he was entering his prime years when most pitchers reach their peak effectiveness. Baseball lost a potential generational talent who was already performing at an elite level during his absolute prime. Fernandez wasn't a prospect with potential. He was a proven ace whose best years were likely ahead of him. His story shows how the most promising careers can end without any warning, reminding us that greatness isn't guaranteed to last regardless of how talented someone appears. Thurman Munson. The cruel irony of Thurman Munson's death is that a catcher finally got healthy only to lose his life to his aviation hobby. Most catchers deal with chronic pain and injuries throughout their careers, but Munson was finally feeling good at age 32. His body was cooperating for the first time in years, and then his personal interests outside baseball created the tragedy that ended everything. Thurman Munson was the heart and soul of the New York Yankees dynasty during the late 1970s. He wasn't just another player on the roster. He was the emotional leader who held everything together during a turbulent era in baseball. The Yankees had plenty of talent and big personalities, but Munson provided the stability and competitive edge that made the team function as a championship unit. The thing is, Munson's leadership during the late 1970s championship runs was crucial to the team's success. He caught for a pitching staff that included multiple All-Stars and managed a clubhouse full of strong personalities. The Yankees won World Series titles in 1977 and 1978 with Munson behind the plate, calling pitches and handling the pressures that come with playing in New York. His teammates respected his influence and admired his dedication to winning. Catching had worn down Munson's body throughout his career in ways that fans didn't always see. The constant squatting behind home plate put stress on a catcher's knees and back. Blocking wild pitches and foul tips takes a toll on the entire body. Collisions at home plate were more common during Munson's era, adding another layer of physical punishment that catchers had to endure. By 1979, Munson was finally healthy and productive at age 32. His body wasn't fighting him anymore, and he was still performing at a high level for the Yankees. This period of relative health made his death even more tragic because he was contributing significantly to the team while dealing with fewer physical problems than he had experienced in previous seasons. Munson's passion for flying provided an escape from baseball pressures. He obtained his pilot's license and enjoyed flying as a hobby that gave him time away from the game. Flying was his personal interest that had nothing to do with baseball, which made it seem like a safe activity. On August 2, 1979, Munson was piloting a private plane when it crashed during a landing attempt at Akron-Canton Airport in Ohio. The accident claimed his life and sent shockwaves through the baseball world. The Yankees lost more than just a player. They lost their captain and the central figure in their team's identity. Personal hobbies can create unexpected tragedies that remind us how fragile athletic careers really are. Roberto Clemente. Roberto Clemente hit exactly 3,000 career hits in his final at-bat of the 1972 season, then spent his off-season focused on helping earthquake victims in Nicaragua. Most players celebrate reaching 3,000 hits and start planning their next milestone. Clemente collected his historic hit and immediately turned his attention to people who needed his help more than baseball needed another record. Clemente was potentially the first player who could have reached 3,500 career hits based on his late career performance. His .317 career batting average across 18 seasons showed incredible consistency that wasn't declining with age. The thing is, Clemente was actually getting better as he got older, which made his death even more tragic from a baseball perspective. His incredible consistency during the late 1960s and early 1970s proved he had several productive seasons left in him. Clemente was still hitting over 300 during his final years and showed no signs of the typical decline that affects most players in their late 30s. His approach at the plate remained disciplined, and his bat speed stayed strong enough to drive balls to all fields. The timing of his 3,000th hit created a perfect ending that nobody knew would be an ending. Clemente stepped into the batter's box for his final at-bat of 1972 and doubled off the wall for hit number 3,000. The moment should have been a celebration of his career achievements and a setup for chasing the next milestone. Instead, it became his farewell to baseball without anyone realizing it. Clemente's decision to deliver earthquake aid to Nicaragua showed his character went beyond baseball statistics. He chartered a plane to transport supplies to disaster victims, putting other people's needs ahead of his own safety and comfort. This humanitarian mission demonstrated the values that defined him throughout his career. The December 31, 1972 plane crash that claimed Clemente's life at age 38 robbed baseball of several more productive seasons. His consistent performance and late career surge suggested he could have easily reached 3,500 hits and potentially challenged even higher numbers. The mathematical reality shows that Clemente was on pace for career totals that would have placed him among the greatest hitters in baseball history. Baseball's most generous player gave his life helping others, creating one of the sport's most heartbreaking endings. Clemente wasn't just pursuing personal records, he was using his platform and resources to make a difference in the world. His death proved that heroic character can sometimes lead to the most tragic conclusions, reminding us that the best people often sacrifice the most for others. Josh Gibson. Reports of Josh Gibson hitting 800-foot home runs sound impossible until you realize Major League players were impressing fans with 450-foot shots during the same era. Gibson was launching baseball's distances that seemed to defy physics, while the best white players were celebrating home runs that traveled half as far. The stories about his mammoth blasts weren't just tall tales. They were consistent reports from multiple witnesses who watched him play. Josh Gibson was potentially baseball's ultimate power hitter based on his Negro League dominance. His career statistics show a .373 batting average and .718 slugging percentage across his entire career. To put this into perspective, his .718 slugging percentage is higher than Babe Ruth's career mark of .690. Gibson wasn't just hitting for power, he was making contact at an elite level while driving balls incredible distances. His 214 OPS Plus demonstrates how much better Gibson was than his competition in the Negro Leagues. An OPS Plus of 214 means he was more than twice as productive as the average hitter in his league. Gibson earned 12 All-Star selections during his Negro League career, showing consistent excellence year after year. The thing is, he wasn't just making All-Star teams, he was dominating them. Gibson won 2 Triple Crowns during his Negro League career, leading his league in batting average, home runs, and RBIs in the same season. His legendary power displays included home runs that reportedly traveled over 500 feet on multiple occasions. Fans packed stadiums specifically to watch Gibson hit because they knew they might witness something they had never seen before. The cruel reality is what integration could have meant for Major League record books. Gibson's power and consistency suggested he could have shattered every home run record in baseball history if given the chance to play in the majors. His combination of contact ability and raw power was unmatched during his era. Josh Gibson died in January 1947 at age 35, just 3 months before Jackie Robinson broke baseball's color barrier. The timing couldn't have been more cruel. Gibson missed integration by a matter of months after spending his entire career proving he belonged in the major leagues. He never got to show major league fans what all those Negro League observers already knew. Racism denied baseball fans potentially the greatest power hitter in the sport's history. Gibson's story represents the most painful what-if scenario in baseball because we know exactly how good he was, but never got to see him compete against the best white players of his era. Historical injustice created the ultimate baseball tragedy. Stephen Strasburg. The paradox of protecting a pitcher so carefully that you rob him of his one healthy playoff moment perfectly describes what happened to Stephen Strasburg in 2012. The Washington Nationals made a decision that seemed logical at the time but created one of baseball's most frustrating what-if scenarios. They shut down their ace pitcher during the playoffs to preserve his arm for future seasons, only to watch him need the exact surgery they were trying to prevent anyway. The 2012 Nationals were in their best position to win a World Series in franchise history. They had built a talented roster around young stars and finally had the pitching depth to compete with anyone. Strasburg was a huge part of that success, dominating hitters with his combination of velocity and control. The thing is, team management decided his long-term health was more important than their immediate championship chances. The team wanted to protect Strasburg's arm after he had already undergone Tommy John surgery earlier in his career. Medical staff advised limiting his innings to prevent another serious injury that could end his career. The Nationals believed they were making a smart decision based on modern pitch management theories about workload limits for young pitchers coming back from surgery. The controversy around limiting his innings during a championship run divided fans and analysts completely. Some people supported the decision as responsible player management. Others argued that championship opportunities are rare, and you have to take advantage when everything aligns properly. The debate became heated because both sides had valid points about protecting players versus winning titles. The question everyone asked was whether the decision actually protected anything meaningful. Strasburg still needed Tommy John surgery years later, despite all the careful innings management. The injury the Nationals tried so hard to prevent happened anyway, making their playoff shutdown look pointless in retrospect. The irony became obvious when you realized the one healthy playoff run was sacrificed for protection that didn't work. Strasburg was feeling good and pitching effectively during 2012, but fans never got to see him perform on baseball's biggest stage. The Nationals traded their best chance at a championship for a health strategy that failed to prevent future injuries. Modern pitch management created its own what-if scenario by overthinking player protection. Teams now have so much data about workloads and injury risk that they sometimes forget about the human element of competition. Strasburg wanted to pitch in the playoffs, but analytics and medical concerns overruled his competitive instincts. Not trying to preserve greatness sometimes prevents it from happening when it matters most. Good intentions created one of the most frustrating alternate histories in recent baseball memory, proving that even the smartest strategies can backfire completely. These stories prove that greatness is fragile and careers can change instantly in baseball. One pitch can end a future Hall of Fame career. A stroke can silence the hardest thrower in the game. Random violence can take a rising star entering his prime. The thing is, the most compelling baseball stories are often the ones that never got to finish. We remember these players not for what they accomplished, but for what they could have accomplished. There's haunting beauty in unlimited potential cut tragically short, reminding us there are no guaranteed endings in baseball.